Morning and welcome to a lockdown production. This morning's a little bit different, as you can guess, because I'm not John. We've got a couple of testimonies and I just hope you enjoy them.
Right. While I'm here, I just wanted to talk about a Bible verse. And it's a Bible verse that reminds me of something that happened to me when lockdown started. And it's something that's got me all the way through my lockdown. And the verse is Philippians 4:19. And it says, "And this same God who takes care of me will supply all your needs from his glorious riches, which have been given to us in Jesus Christ." And the reason that verse has been so important to me while we've all been locked down is the beginning of lockdown. I felt myself getting quite upset and I was quite worried about how people were going to cope in the lockdown. I was quite upset at how I was going to cope in the lockdown because church is basically my family, and it was quite upsetting for me to not have that, and to not have that, support, like where I could just turn up on a Sunday and cuddle everyone and speak to everyone. And I remember one day I was having like a really, really bad day in particular. Nothing was going right. I sort of felt like God was ignoring me a little bit, or that he didn't know what to do for me. And my kids asked for toast, and I remember sitting them down and I realised that I had no bread and no milk. And it was something so small, but because everything else was going wrong, it was like the biggest defeat in the world to not have this bread and the milk. And I remember being really, really upset that I didn't have it. And it was raining. I really didn't want to trek out with two kids. And I just said, "Oh, give me a break, God." And I said to the kids, I said, "We're going to have to go out and get ready, and just go to the shop." And I was so defeated by this really small inconvenience. And I sat them down for a little bit and I got a phone call from a lady called Gaynor who said, "Are you in? I'm going to be on your doorstep in 5 minutes. I've got some stuff for you." And when she showed up, she had bread and milk. And it was something so small, but I couldn't believe it at all. It really took me back. She came to the doorstep with this bread and the milk, bless her. And she gave me it and I got inside and I was crying. And I was holding on to this little carton of milk, and the kids thought that I'd cracked. And I was cuddling this milk and I was crying. And it's the smallest thing in the world, but it was so big to me because I didn't even have to ask God for this bread and the milk. I didn't say it to him specifically, "Just give me the bread and the milk. I don't want to go nowhere." I just said, "Oh, please give me a break." And God's that present in my life and my kids' lives that he got somebody to deliver me the bread and milk without needing to ask. So now every time I hear that Bible verse, the Philippians, I think about the bread and the milk and I think about how good he is at providing for us and stuff like that. So it's what's got me through lockdown. So no matter how hard my week's been, I always think about the bread and the milk that he made sure we didn't go without. And it just reminds me that as long as me and my kids stay close to God, we'll never go without what we need, really. That's me. Right, so I'm just going to end it in prayer. So Lord God, I just want to thank you that throughout this lockdown that you've been such a present God for us. I want to thank you that even when we don't feel like you are close to us, God, that you're a God who will literally make sure that we have everything we need, even if it is just something as simple as the bread and the milk, God. I thank you for keeping us as a church strong and making sure that we've still all been able to connect with each other and provide each other with everything that we need. I thank you for just giving us so much peace and happiness during this time where it should have been filled with fear and confusion. I thank you that you've managed to give us all new and better qualities throughout this. You've taught us things that we didn't realise we needed to be taught, and you've taught us the value of what it means to really be Christians and to really walk the path that you want us to walk, God. So I just thank you that I know that it can only get better from this point on, and I'm just very humbled by the fact that you love us that much, that you connect with us this deeply, God, and I'll always be grateful for that. So I thank you for that, God. Amen.
Hi, good morning everybody. First of all, I don't feel qualified to sit here, which I've got a lot better at, and I see that, when I'm sitting in church and, I see new people walking in the doors like I was on Sunday, and there was new people sitting here, and it was the first time at church and I was looking at them thinking, I know what you're feeling right now, coming from the same society as me, coming from maybe the same background, and what I can explain for me walking into church my first time, which, I was not raised as a Christian, far from, wasn't raised in a Christian family, there was a lot of drugs and a lot of chaos, and every single need I was born with was not met, which is part and parcel with the reason why I'm still working at being qualified for sitting in church and sitting here and, and being able to feel good enough, if you like, to sit here, because I'm still a sinner as well, but that upbringing, took me down a path of, my own struggles with drugs and alcohol and aggression and, chaos and paranoia and wanting to die and being suicidal and totally lost and broken and smashed, and I'd got clean through a 12-step program. But what I found is that I'd stopped using substances and I'd stopped taking drugs and I'd stopped using alcohol, and my life got a little bit better. My judgments weren't clouded anymore, but there was still something so wrong with me for a lot of years after that I just couldn't seem to fathom out what was wrong, I couldn't seem to, fill a hole that was constantly present within me, and I constantly felt lost and still never felt good enough. And, no matter how many cars I put in there, no matter, how much money I had, no matter what people said, no matter how long I'd stayed clean and sober, I was still left with this feeling of I'm not good enough, and I hated myself. I hated myself and didn't really have a good enough reason why I hated myself. And there was a lot of change that I needed to endure what I see today. But I hated myself because I didn't know how to change on my own. I didn't know, I had a bitter heart, I was still so angry. I was still, still full of, I'll never be good enough for anything, What I know today is the enemy, the real life enemy that I know that is present today on this earth, had full run wick of my mind, of my heart, of my full life, and my family were getting saved. My family were coming to church and getting baptised, and they were getting saved, and it was all nice for them, and I was all good on you. But then it got to, a few years later where, these, especially my dad, the way his heart was changing, and I've always had a good relationship with our dad, but not emotionally, if that makes sense, to be able to be, emotionally intimate with our dad, or with our mum, in fact. And then they started to get, Jesus was in their hearts, and I could see that, and they were different with me, and they were kind of asking me to speak on an emotional level with them, and I was like, too much for me. Didn't really know where to go with my problem, because it wasn't a problem that I could see. It wasn't a drug and alcohol problem. It wasn't a absolute constant anger problem. It was a problem that I couldn't see, but it was on the inside of me, and it destroyed my relationships all the time, and I was so offended all the time, and then I was so offensive all the time, and I was so lost, and walking into church for the first time, and thinking, what they have, I want, what they have, I need. You know, and why I was thinking about this on Sundays, last Sunday service just gone, was that someone was stood at the front here, you know, and they were talking about how imperfect they are, you know, and they're still trying to make it, you know, and I remember hearing stories like that sitting in church, my first time coming to church and stuff, that I thought, you know what, God had never loved me that much where I can understand and believe that I have a loving God, you know, because there were just words that I would hear in church. There were genuinely words that I didn't believe for me. I believed it for Eve. I believed it for Krista. I believed it for Nikki. I believed it for our dad, and I believed it for everybody else. But I just couldn't seem to believe it for me, because if yous knew me, you know, and how awful I am, you know, and how not good enough I am, and how, you know, how much of an awful person I am, you know, God would never be able to love me. Then I'd also hear how much people love God, and I'd think, I'd never be able to love God that much. I want to. Do I? Don't really know. Don't even know why I'm coming. This is my last option. Not that death was becoming apparent, but I was definitely dying on the inside, you know, and I'd rather turn back over and had to depend on drugs and alcohol again, or probably would have died, you know, or wanted to die, you know, and this was my last option, you know, and I didn't look smashed, I didn't look broken, I had it together, I had a nice house, I had a nice car, I had the kid. And on the inside of me, if you could take my head off and see inside, you know, it was just a big mess. It was spreading out outwardly, you know, and I can't really say when that started to change for me. You know, I kept on coming anyway, regardless of me not feeling good enough. I hung on to every single word that was said in this church. I heard people saying that they read the Bible, so I started to read mine. I read it like a story. I went to a Catholic school, and they told it to me like a story. They didn't tell me how important it was to believe this in your heart and change, you know, and to, you know, be fruitful. You know, that it's important to be fruitful, you know, and it's important to love Jesus and follow Jesus, and, you know, be protected by Jesus and be loved by Jesus. They read it to me like a story, so I knew those stories. So I read the Bible like a story. So I had to put it down because I was reading it like a story and I wasn't getting anywhere with my faith, but I really wanted to be faithful. And what I found is God knows how to communicate with us individually. You know, he knows how to communicate with us individually, and I didn't stop communicating with God. And even if it was just, you know what, I don't even know if you're listening to me. I don't even know if I'm good enough, but please just help me. You know, and I'd pray about this faith, and I'd learn to pray about my heart and what goes on the inside of it, what flows out of the heart, you know. And I knew I had no faith, and I knew I was still mad as at her, and I was coming to church and still didn't feel qualified to come to church, and not good enough and not Christian enough, and on and on and on, thinking that I could be a better person at home, then I'll come to church. How that would work, I'd never know. So I started to dig deeper with the Christian stuff, not just turning up at church, because that was just not enough for me. That does not make me a Christian, just coming to church. If I know the word and believe the word, and then I love the word, and then I can live by that word as best as I can. That's what I know now. But through keeping on going, communicating with God, and the way he knows how to communicate with me, that he had to show me through all my own experiences, that the moments that my life was going upside down, just slowly tipping upside down, rather than me panicking or getting dead angry or me putting my spin on it, me taking control of it. I would be in anybody's room or toilet or 5 minutes away from anybody and just be like, you know what, I don't believe you're here. You're not going to show up for me, but please help me right now with this. I don't know how I feel. I don't know what I want to do, but I'm scared. I'm scared of acting the way I do. I need something different. And to feel, the only way I can describe it is like a pressure cooker. He'd just turn it down. He wouldn't, I hear people saying, God talks to me. And he never did. And I wanted him to say, hi, I'm real, I'm here. He just used to turn something down on the inside of me. And I'd feel myself thinking, right, that definitely wasn't you. You do not know how to control that. You do not know how to control your emotions. You do not know how to control anything that goes on the inside of you. And that's how he started to communicate with me. He knows what I needed to boost that faith. I was saying to him, I'm reading it and I don't believe it, I'm sorry. What I learned was, very quickly, is to have an honest relationship with God. I'm reading it, but I don't get it. I want to believe in you, but I don't. I want to feel worthy, but I don't. Please help me. That they're the only prayers I had. I only know to be honest with God. If he's there, I can be honest. And I don't know where I heard that, but I took it right on board, and it sunk somewhere right inside of me that I never forgot. And it stood me in good stead right the way throughout my walk. I remember not feeling ready to get baptised, but I'd been coming to church and knew a little bit, and had a little bit of faith, which, that word, it's a mustard seed. You just need it's tiny, that mustard seed, and I had it, and I knew I did. And I felt qualified to be baptised. Yeah. But our minister, John, had also said, do you feel like getting baptised? And I knew I'd run out of excuses, and from then on, from getting baptised, the battle was on. That's my story. I don't want to put anybody off, because what happened next was beautiful, was absolutely massive. That's the way God had to communicate with me. I don't believe God caused my life to tip upside down. The enemy was right in the mix of all that, but he so showed me something deeper. He so showed up for me in something deeper, and it broke me, literally broke me, because I thought, I don't know how I ever survived without you. I don't know how I ever survived without you. One thing he did teach me, that I can survive any storm. I might not feel it when I'm in it, but I absolutely know it, And that little bit of faith I do have when the storm does end, when the storm does come, I remember all the other storms and think, I'm going to come out with this. I don't feel it, I don't see it. And then the enemy's still there saying, you won't see it out. You're not going to be able to do this, and he wants me to turn, to my old ways, and all of a sudden there he is, and he stands, and he's never once let me down yet. One thing that's been springing to my mind as I've been talking is, he's the author and he's the finisher of my faith. You walk in this church and you might not have faith. You walk in this church and there's a little bit of faith, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Something has to change in me. I have to come. This is my last option. Something different might happen to me. Something different might happen for me and to me. And when I know that, my faith is only going to get better as well, because he is in some things where I'm like, you know what, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know I don't know how to trust you here. But like I said, I got baptised and the storms were on. And I mean, literally, from one day, it's probably been happening, I just probably didn't see it. From one day, it was like I got baptised and my life was literally tipped right upside down the very next day. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I was financially broken. I had £16.50 in the bank. I'd split up with my partner. I was in second year uni. I had a car that I didn't know I was going to pay for. I had a baby. My life was upside down. Upside down. Everything was just like stripped. And I had no choice but to say, you know what? I have nowhere else to go with this. But you've got it. You've got it. And you know what? I remember waking up on, the next morning, and there was some money that had come into my bank, which I'm not saying that this is, I believe, I don't know, I still to this day don't know where this money come from, but it was just enough to see me through that day. It was like a unknown where it had come from. I don't know if someone had blessed me with that, but it was quite a weird number. It was kind of like £48, something like that. I had no money to buy anything, to send anything back, so it definitely wasn't a return. Or refund, sorry, and there was enough money in the bank just to see me through for what I needed. And I sort of looked at it and thought, milk, bread, bit of petrol, and I'm on my way right here. Like, I don't know where it's come from, but I believe this is you. So this day, I don't have no idea where that come from. And that's just one small example. What he does on the inside of me, The way he does speak to me today, the way I can be sitting and feeling worthless and he'll just fill me with this, I love you. I love you. You know, I heard someone say that once, and I literally feel that now. I literally feel him say, I love you. You know, and I think, yeah, but you know what? I love God. I absolutely love God because he knows how to communicate with me, and he's so merciful on me that I'm far from perfect, and I come from that background, and he understands me. Regardless if other people understand me, he knows and understands me, and he loves me, you know, and I feel it, and he communicates that to me just with a feeling or the way he speaks to my heart. Don't do that. Don't do it. You know, and the conviction, the way he convicts me with things, you know. So I sit here and I don't know how anybody makes it without Jesus, not just me. I don't know how anybody makes it through life without Jesus. I have no idea. And I'm going to serve him. That's me done. Alright, I'm going to pray. Yeah. Yes, Father, I just want to thank you for this night, and I just want to thank you that, you know, that you fill my heart with the truth, you know, and, you know, you're constantly over me, and you're constantly giving me a fresh touch of your spirit every single day, Lord, you know, and you just never let me go. You never let me out of your sight, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that my words tonight, whoever hears it in the future, Lord, that it touches their heart in some kind of way. I believe that I haven't had to read off the paper that's beside me there, Lord. There's a reason why I've spoke the way I have, and whenever I've said, Lord, I hope someone can take something from that, and I just pray that you bless those words, that you bless those words on that camera. You know, and you use it to reach someone's heart, and you use it to reach someone who can be saved, Lord. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for always being faithful. Amen.
La 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 la.